Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to CMTEQ channel in this C programming snippet, where we're going to look at how to write a simple C program that basically going to help us select some RGB colors here. So I'm into this website, Rapid Tables, basically my Google search where just RGB values, and I select this second link and I land here. Now, if I go on to blue here, you can see that red, greens are 0 and blue is 255. The same thing will happen on green, right? So that's how the RGB color selections are done. Now, if we are writing an embedded system application, obviously we want the user to enter a user-friendly name like red, right? We don't want someone to enter all these characters. But now, as the person is entering green and you are returning the green color, the work must be done on the background. You basically must program the application so that they can recognize the name green and return the color green. So I've got this program here. That is a series of tutorial on embedded system. That is the integration of Raspberry Pi and Arduino with the Telegram application. So it's a good tutorial if you want to watch some embedded system, the basics, right? So here we basically, if I may play, here we basically, you can see I'm entering some RGB colors coded, then you can see I'm getting red. Okay, so that is how it is being used on the chatbot application. So the user basically enter the RGB codes, right? And then it return the color. But now we want to improve this embedded system application so that the user doesn't have to enter the characters like that. He can just enter the name of the color and then return with the color. So if you want to learn some embedded, once again, please go ahead and watch that series of tutorial explained in the most basics way. Okay, now let's close out. Pay that is a subject for another day. So now the problem here is basically to write that program that will do that for us. Now, if you look at the outline here, basically you must just write a C program to choose or select RGB color for embedded system application, right? So the way the program will be is just simple. Create two arrays of data. Okay, that will be used like a lookup table. So the one lookup table will be for RGB codes, the 255 and the zeros, and the other lookup table will be for the name. And then you have to do the work of joining that onto your C code here to join the two together so that they can work as one nice program. Right, without any further ado, let's go ahead and start writing our C programming code. So the first thing is obviously stdio.h, that is our library. And then we're going to use another library for the string. So include string.h, okay, just like that. Now we can start by defining the two arrays that we said we're going to define here. But before you can create an array, you must have the table size first. Okay, so we're going to define your array size, so that we're going to say table size, okay, for your lookup table, and we're going to say 255. Now, mind you, this 255 here got nothing to do with the RGB 255, which is an 8-bit integer. Okay, so this is just a size of the array that we're going to use so that we can populate as many as possible. Now, the first thing we're going to create is the lookup table for the RGB values. So we're going to call this RGB lookup table, and it's going to be of type unsigned car, okay, RGB underscore lookup. Okay, now this table, we now need to pass a table size. Okay, we already created the value, so that's a table size. Now this is a 2D array, a two-dimensional array, because we're going to pass rows in it. So we're going to pass number 3 here for the RGB colors that we're going to pass through. Okay, then this is going to be our array like that. Now we have to go ahead and populate the variable of our array. Okay, so the first value in our array is going to be 0, 0, 0. Now this basically will be the black color, because it's not going to basically trigger anything, so it's a black color. So the second one, we're gonna say 255 0 and then another 0. And guess what? This is for the red color comment. Red color. Now you can go ahead and just copy if you want to, because it makes things slightly faster. So you're going to change now. This is gonna be 0, and you make this 255, and you guess what? This is gonna be the green color. Green color, and then you have to add the blue color as well. That will be 255. Okay, and this is obviously your blue color. Right, so for now we're just going to leave it to these few colors, and obviously if you want more color, you can basically come into this page here and fill in as many color as you want. So long as your table size is 255, you're going to fill in a lot of color. Now we're writing a C programming application without the main function, so let's go ahead and create our main function first here. Okay, and return 0 when the function compiles successfully. Now I'm going to just pause for a moment and ask that if you find this tutorial useful, please subscribe to CMTEQ channel and give this tutorial a thumbs up. That will be highly appreciated, and I really appreciate your support. Now before we can start populating code into our main program to basically link up the table, let's go ahead and create another table, and this is going to be a color name table. Okay, so this is also gonna be an array of type car. Okay, so that's gonna be color, okay, lookup. So that is RGB lookup, and this is the color lookup, and this is also gonna be an array, a one-dimensional array for that matter. Okay, then we're going to start passing the strings, basically the name of the variable. Now this must be a pointer array. That is where we're going to reference it to all the color names when the user enter them. So now let's start populating with the name of the array. So now we can see that the first one, because remember you have to link the two tables, so you can see the first one is a black color, so you have to pass the name black. Okay, and the second one is red. Right, so now we basically have all our colors into the lookup table there. Now we can start linking them together into our main function. So to link these two tables, we're going to basically ask a user to enter the color that they wish to display, and then get the color name and do a lookup into our table. When we find a match, then we use the index of that match, and we find the corresponding index into the RGB lookup table here. So for instance, green is on index 0, 1, 2. So we have to ensure also here green is on index 0, 1, 2. So when we find 2 here, then automatically we know that index 2 is going to be green. Then we're going to get our RGB values and we display. So that's basically how the program is going to work. So you have to ensure that your indexes here, they matches along. So if you do not do that, then you have to design a program, an application that will be very clever enough to navigate through the confusion. Now let's go ahead and ask the user to enter the color. So we're gonna say get a color name, right? So we must create a character variable of type pointer, and we're going to call it color underscore name, just like that. Okay, so now we have to be polite and call in a printf statement so that we can ask the user on the printf statement to please enter a color name, just like that. Okay, now after the user enter a color name, obviously we must call in scanf so that a scanf here can handle it for us. So it's a string character, so we must format it to a string. Okay, and then we need to pass our variable, which is a color name, right? Not the lookup table, just like that. And by the way, the lookup table, we forgot to pass the table size variable, because remember, your program is still going to work if you don't pass a table size, but it will just run into some memory uncertainty because your array got an infinite size. So you must always define it that way, you know the boundary in which your program is working. Now you've got a color name and it is stored into this color underscore variable. So the next thing is now obviously to find the index of that color into the lookup table. Okay, so find index of color. Okay, so to do that, as always, we create a variable of type integer, and you can call that variable whatever name you want. So I say it's index and I initialize it to be equal to -1. Now I'm going to use a for loop so I can circle into my lookup table. Now a for loop needs some initialization. Int I is equal to 0. Okay, and then I is less than something, what, table size. Okay, because we're going to circle through the table, then we're gonna increment I. Okay, now we are inside the for loop, and each for loop incrementation is going to be an index of all these name here. So now we need to take one of the name for each index and compare it to the name that the user just entered. So to do that, we call an if statement. Okay, so we call our if statement and we use the string comparison function. So that is string comparison. Okay, and in that string comparison, we're going to basically pass the lookup table name. So that is the color lookup table. It is an array, and we need to pass the index, and the index is going to be each values of I as we're cycling through the table. Okay, so we pass I there. Then we need to compare it with the name that the user just entered. So to compare it, we just pass a comma there, and then we pass the name that the user just entered, that is now stored into the color name variable there. Now if these two comparisons are successful, okay, then it's going to return a value of 0. Okay, so if this is successful, the result here must be equal to 0 if we got a match. So if whatever the user enter matches these at any particular indexes, then this is going to be equal to 0. If that is true, then all we have to do is basically to bingo, pass the value of that index as the new index. So to do that, we're just going to say index is now is equal to I. Okay, so if we enter the color red, now red here is on index 1. So once we start circling, and then we got index 1 and color red, we compare to red, oh bingo, it's a match, so it's gonna be equal to 0. Then this if statement validate to true, then we pass index must be equal to I. Okay, so once index is equal to I, we can then exit the loop. Okay, so we don't want to continue inside the for loop because we already find the match, so we can just break like that. Okay, now let's go ahead and just test this. Okay, we need to test this thing. So to test this, I'm going to come outside the for loop here and then just pass a print statement. Okay, so print f, and then we basically going to say the color, right? So this is what the user is going to enter. Okay, so index is %d, like that. So here we're gonna pass color underscore and comma index. Okay, so this here, if it's successful, is going to print as the name of the color and the index of that color. Now let's go ahead and give this a quick try here. So I'm gonna run this quickly. Okay, so let's enter the name red. Okay, there we go. The color red index is 1. It's working. Okay, let's choose yellow. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yellow is 5, is 4. So let's say yellow. Oops, we have to run this again. Okay, yellow. There we go. The color yellow index is 4. So clearly you can see that the program is working. So you can choose, if you enter a color that does not exist, it's basically going to print nothing. So if we say black, we know that the index of black is 0. There we go, index of black is 0. Now as soon as you find this index, then you can take this index and match it with index 0, and that will be your RGB color. So that is where we are going with this tutorial. So I'm going to stop this now, and part 2, because I don't want it to become too long. So part 2, we basically just going to wrap it by taking the index here and then make it making a match with our RGB values table here, and that is going to be the application we're going to use into our Raspberry Pi and Arduino application. Until next time, guys, if you find this tutorial useful, don't forget to subscribe and give this tutorial a thumbs up. Stay tuned. Cheers.